Special welcome to any guests who are with us today. It's wonderful to have you here to celebrate liturgy. My friends, there are two very striking things about the parable in today's gospel. First, the servants are entrusted with something of extraordinary value. And the master calls two of the servants good and faithful, because they do not run off and spend the money given them on themselves, but rather they invest what was given them as their way of revering their relationship with the master. His reply, "Since you were faithful, I will give you greater responsibilities. Come, share my joy." The point Jesus is trying to make, I believe, is that God has given everyone the treasure of grace and mercy. God has given us all a share in the very life of God. And it is that which is meant to be deepened and nourished and affirmed and strengthened so that our relationship with God can grow. And so that we can be the faithful servants today who revere our relationship with the Master, God. The second striking thing is the consequence of all of this. From those to whom much is given, much will be expected. The parable invites us to recognize that God expects that the gift He has given us should bear fruit. The gift of faith, the gift of God's very Spirit within us, is meant to be shared, is meant to enrich the world in which we live. We have all been granted something absolutely extraordinary, not so that it might overflow into great skill in any earthly activity, but that rather it will overflow in that charity and justice which is the very love of God Himself. Now, we can choose to let the gift of faith, the gift of our relationship with God, simply be buried, hidden, and not nurtured or developed, as was the case of that servant who received one talent and buried it because he was fearful of the master. We're free to not cooperate with the Holy Spirit and instead can listen to the voice of fear in us, or we can simply allow ourselves to get caught up in making the things of this world alone our priority, as good and as beautiful as they are. But the other choice is to allow the gift of faith, the gift of God's life in us, to first transform our lives, conforming ourselves more closely day by day to Christ. And through striving for that in our journey, to participate in the transformation of the world. It's really about discipleship. All of us, by way of baptism, are disciples of the Lord. And we have the responsibility of using the gifts we've been given for the sake of the kingdom. Are we perfect at this? No. Will we fail and fall into sin? Yes. But first, we can and must always rely on the overwhelming mercy and forgiveness of God. And second, we need to recognize that there is no playing it safe with this investment. Discipleship is not about holding to ourselves or hoarding to ourselves the gifts of God. Discipleship challenges us to action, to risk-taking, to increasing the yield of good works, and sharing those with others. One author put it this way: the risks that earn us affirmation as good and faithful servants are the ordinary kingdom exchanges of daily life. Forgiving rather than burying a grudge in our hearts, standing by another in times of sorrow, failure, or misunderstanding, giving someone the benefit of the doubt, associating with those whom many consider the wrong kind of unacceptable people, laying down one's life for another, perhaps a misunderstood friend, a rebellious child, a terminally ill spouse, aged parents. And she concludes, all this now effort is preparing us for the not yet entry into the kingdom. All this now effort is preparing us for the not yet entry into the kingdom.